At the outset, I would like to welcome friends of the maritime sector and supporters of Maritime SheEO. And felicitations to Sanjam, her co-hosts, and the entire team who have worked on this, behind the curtains on this conference. And Sanjam, especially, I'm grateful to you for acknowledging the beginnings, my contribution to the beginnings of this Maritime SheEO. I still remember she took the name SheEO, but then she found it was already registered, copyrighted, so she had to convert it to Maritime SheEO. So those were the beginnings. And thank you for having me here today amidst you. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know we are in the 21st century. We witness the benefits of technology reaching every aspect of our lives. We assume that the technological developments are synonymous with an enhanced cultural sphere and civilizational values. Yet, are we not appalled at the misogynist world that pervades our professional arena from time to time? What did we witness in the run-up to the presidential elections in the United States? The insinuations and innuendos that filled the debate, from vulgar posts on the social media implying that the nominee owed her political rise to sexual favors, to calling her dumb, incompetent, and worse. And here we are talking about the most powerful nation, the most advanced society in the world, and about a woman who is smart, intelligent, and empowered. If a presidential candidate is not immune to such behavioral aspects from the society, where do we other women stand is a question that has perhaps pervaded our minds. In her latest book titled Feminist Killjoy, the author Sara Ahmed talks about situations that women face. She says, if as a woman you try to assert yourself in a situation, shared your unease on something, or taken offense to one thing or another, chances are you have heard, and I quote, be a sport, yaar. Why spoil the fun, man? Or you're taking everything too literally. So this is the background in which women have to work in fields that are male-dominated. But here I do see tremendous transformation. And I'm going to spend just half a minute talking about a person who works in my home as a household help. This is a petite girl from rustic hinterlands of Assam, which is really, and she doesn't come from a town, she comes from a village, and she's been helping me in the kitchen. Now interestingly, she got married at 18, so came to Chennai at 19, and she told me she has never cooked in her life. Now this was news to me, because I always felt that the women, not only in the, across cities and rural areas, were asked to cook. They were meant to cook, to study, to cook, to get married, and to run a household. She says, ma'am, I have never cooked, you'll have to teach me. She did not know what an idli looked like, because that's not what she grew up with. An idli is the native food of South India. But she learned very fast. And when I asked her, when do you get time to cook in your home? She says, no. My husband prepares the food before he goes to office. I like his food, he likes cooking. And interestingly, she told me that that is his job to go to office. This is my job in your home. So I consider it a job, and it is not a woman's job or anything. So this is what transformation is all about. Women are overcoming hurdles and challenges, taking to male-dominated careers from airline pilots to engine driver. Now, the largest proportion of women airline pilots in the world are actually in India. That is something that has, yes. In the Indian Maritime University alone, we are witness to the increase in the number of female cadets in our campuses, from a mere 12 about 10 years ago to over 190 today. This is a 16 times jump in just one decade. Maritime corporates are reaching out to recruit women. Sensitive ship managers deploy, if necessary, more than one girl on board vessels so that they have company and they have strength. Global shipping companies have committed themselves to diversity goals, even as parents, interestingly, are eager that their daughters achieve their ideals and aspirations. In recent weeks, I have been interacting with girl cadets in our campuses, and there are several insights that I have. At the cost of perhaps being biased, but I think I'm not, I found that they're uniformly more capable than the men who enter college today. They have great thirst for knowledge, eagerness to learn, and readiness to work hard. They are articulate, confident, courageous, sociable, and ambitious. They have read books. We have something called a book review as part of our internal assessment in the university. And I go around asking people whether they've read books. A larger proportion of the girls have actually read books than the boys. And they play games, and they're capable of outsmarting the boys. In fact, one of their grievances when I had an interaction, it was informal interaction with them, was we are not getting equal time for sports on the campuses. Very interesting. I mean, I was told they're going to complain about their hostels, their lack of facilities, the plaster is coming off. No, they said, ma'am, our games period is on paper and we are not getting equal time. Can you do something about it? Very low-hanging fruit, but it actually tells how, and many of them in Kolkata, for example, I said, okay, you're interested in games, fine. How many of you actually have played it? 90% have played games in their school. I find, interestingly, they are no longer inhibited by conventional families. They do their own research, they talk to peers and experts before choosing their vocation. So I found a few years earlier, 10 years earlier, there were girls who would come and tell me, I have fought with my parents to enter this, and I have, but my colleagues or even the college is not giving me ship time, on board time. But now when I asked them, they said, no, we didn't have to fight with our parents. We did our research. They're very happy. They said, if this is what you want to do, please go ahead and do it. So that's a change that I'm seeing. Maybe there is more survey that can be done to see whether this stands and this substantiates. I would like to just take a few minutes to give a few recent feedbacks that I received and perhaps some parts that Maritime SheEO can look at in the future. And these are previously, the feedback from the industry used to be largely on the need for improvement in communication skills and attitudes. Right now, number one, there is feedback from the industry that the girls join the companies, even the top companies, especially if they're joining very advanced technology companies, the attrition rate is very high. They leave in 6 months, and their employers are in the lurch. I think this is something to look at to see why are the girls why are they leaving? For example, one person told me that they tried to retain the girl, but the parents came and said, no, I want her back in Kerala. And if this is a situation in Kerala, I don't know what's the situation in other states. Number two, and this is very disturbing, the HR people on ship companies are very hesitant to put girls on board because they're fighting with each other. They have spats, is what I hear. So in fact, in the Chennai Maritime Conference, there was a proposal saying SCI has done it once, but then we should have on board all female crew, which SCI did once for Women's Day. But I think we need to sensitize our girls to see that they work together. And the third, and there's a lot of chat in the Indian social media groups about the attire of girls. Now, this has become extremely, it's a little controversial. It says, it goes down to the nuances of what should be the behavior and attire of the female on board when she is at work, when she's in the cabin, and when she is not in work but on the deck or somewhere. Now, these are nuances that as a university we are trying to address to see maybe there needs to be more sensitization for both boys and girls. And here I will just say that I remember when I started working, my first boss, he was an ex-Army Short Service Commission officer. And I remember him telling, Malini, remember, you are an officer first and a lady second. Very clear instructions. And I just didn't get the essence of it, so I must have looked at him quizzically, and he said, okay, let me explain. He says, if you're invited for an official lunch, you shall not take the plate first. You're an officer, and you shall follow the pecking order. But if you're invited home for dinner, you're a lady first, and you shall go first. So that's the clarity we need to have as women. That's helped me for the 40 years in service. And I think that's very essential to know. Regarding the attire, regarding the behavior, I think there's a dress sense for every occasion. While on board and working in a closed environment, the girls need to be careful and need to know that they are working in a very closed environment, so there's chance of being misinterpreted is rather high. Here, I think in future Maritime SheEO conferences or even events, we can look at two things. One is a course on cross-cultural management. I think that's very essential for people who are working in the shipping industry, where the crew or even the onshore employees or staff come from different countries, different backgrounds. Even if they're working within India, and India is not just one country, it's kind of so many cultures. So cross-cultural management. And the second thing is perhaps a course on gender sensitization for men in maritime and logistics. I know Sanjam has been instrumental in driving the gender sensitization course to be included in the curriculum of the maritime training institutions. But when you give it as a course in the college, I think the students are fresh, raw, naive. They do not know the context in which they will be working. So maybe a refresher course later would be a very good idea. And a separate course for the boys, because we've been discussing since last evening that I think the growth pattern of girls, even in India, is so different from the boys now, that the boys have to come on par and learn to accept the girls who are just going, they're just growing too fast. And lastly, before I end, I think we need to support each other, encourage each other, and Maritime SheEO Conference is one of the forums where we learn how to do this, be enlightened on what are the tools, techniques, and communication that we use for this. And there's a story I'd like to end with. So I was collector of Nagpur district many years ago, and there was this lady, and she was probably older than me. She came and she said, and as a collector, you receive grievances from different sections of society and different kinds of problems. So I said, what's your problem? She said, I have a husband who's a philanderer, and she was living in Nagpur, and the husband was from some other state. She said, can you use your good offices to get my husband arrested in that state? So that was a shocker. And here I was, a young officer. I said, oh, okay. And then I spoke to her and got the details of what he does. And I told her that, I think this was 20 years ago, 25 years ago. I said, okay, I think I can help you, but I would like you to think of the consequences of this. You get him arrested, and what do you gain? Please look at your own gain. And then I gave her 3 options. I said, and the last option was, I'll get you a district legal advice. So to go about it. Okay, that was the simplest one, but the more sustainable one. And then I told her, please go home, think about it, and come back. So I didn't expect her back. I thought that's the end of the story, she will go. She came back 10 days later, and I said, okay, you still want your husband arrested? So she said, no, ma'am. I came here, and just talking to you, I found the strength to ask myself what I need to do. And I think unknowingly, I gave her that strength. So I think that's a support, encouragement, and strength that we all need to give each other. And sometimes you do it in a very professional way, and sometimes you do it quite unknowingly by just giving a year. I think all she needed was a year. I think that's what most women need, men also nowadays. So I don't want to distinguish here. And with this, I wish the conference all the best, and may it continue to flourish in the years to come. Thank you so much for having me.